with Eddie and Webby. Dinking around with Eddie and Webby tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We are back with the brand new episode of Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby for the first time in 2024. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year, Webby. I can't believe it. It's only January 4th, and we're already coming out with an episode of Dinking Around. You and I together, live. This is great. I'm so happy to be back doing this, man.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's probably the soonest we've ever done a new episode after a new year. I love it. Here we go.
Let's go, baby. First, we got to touch the tips.
Yeah, not official till we do that.
That's right. Super excited about tonight, guys. We're going to have a special guest joining us here in just a couple minutes, which I'm very excited about. He's a good friend of ours. We have some really cool, cutting-edge technology that we want to be able to share with you guys, so it's going to be a little bit different of an episode tonight. But it's important that we get the word out there because what we're going to talk about, I really do think is going to be a next huge leap in pickleball, and I'm excited to share it with you. But before we do any of that, Webby, I'm a little thirsty. Are you thirsty this evening?
I am very thirsty, and I actually have a beer crack. I'm about to pour it right here. It's from our friends at New Belgium Brewing. A nice, tasty, fat tire ale. Oh, yeah.
Very nice. That's one of the new ones, too. The new recipe, which I definitely enjoy. Big thank you to New Belgium for their continued support of pickleball. We're big fans of you, and we appreciate it. But Webby, I actually am not going to be drinking a beer tonight. I don't know. Sometimes I don't get in the beer mood, and I like a good seltzer. So I'm going to be enjoying another hard seltzer from our friends over at Happy Dad. And this is the wild cherry flavor. Have you had one of these before?
I still have not. No, I need to, but I have not.
They're good. They're tasty. They're really tasty. Cheers, my friend. Happy New Year.
Cheers
to you
Happy
and everybody
New Year.
out there tuning in.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing, too, I wanted to share before we jump into it is Webby and I actually have a very big announcement that we're not going to be sharing tonight, but we are going to be sharing very soon. It has to do with the new partnership that we have created with a very well-known company. A lot of you won't be surprised when we announce it, but I would say within the next week, we will be announcing it, and we're super excited. It's another huge step and a big milestone for us here at the Eddie and Webby. I was going to say podcast, but that's not it. This is Dinking Around. Totally different. What the hell am I thinking?
Oh, this is Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby. Duh.
That's right. Well, Webby, without further ado, do you think we should bring our guest on?
I think we should do that. We should definitely do that.
All right. Well, the guest has been on our podcast a couple different times. He's been a friend of ours for a long time. As we were getting into streaming, he was getting into streaming. He had a podcast going, decided to talk some smack to us. We responded with a rap song. It's been an ongoing battle ever since. But please welcome to the show the CEO of Boxcar Prouductions and a new partner of mine in a separate business venture, the one and only Kyle Selinko. How the hell are you, man?
I am doing just swell. It was funny, Eddie. People were sharing clips of the No Smoke Pickleball show in the Discord a couple weeks ago, and I was just laughing at them because I was like, man, we really thought we were doing something back then in 2018 or 19 or whatever it was, when there was only 2 podcasts in the pickleball world, and people were laughing like, well, the Discord was actually nice. So like, yeah, you actually were doing something back then that really no one else was doing. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
but,
I liked it. I tuned into all your episodes. I'm pretty sure I tuned into all of them, and then I wrote the rap song to diss you guys.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Yeah, and then at the 2019 Nationals, we came up with our rebuttal where we're just like, everyone was like, who's Eddie and Webby? Every single pro you could possibly find. So.
Yeah,
but of course they all knew who you were, but
I don't know. There are probably a few that didn't.
What was hilarious is they literally had people that were just on our show like 2 weeks beforehand, and they were like, "Who's Eddie and Webby?"
Yeah, that's right.
I loved it.
So fun. Well, Kyle and I have been working our butts off over the last few months, just grinding it, trying to get something to market here that we really feel like is going to revolutionize pickleball. And so Webby is going to take the role of kind of the one guiding the show for the rest of the evening. And I'm going to be on the other side of it, which is kind of fun. I don't think I've ever done that before. I know, Webby, one time I interviewed you about your background and stuff, but I don't think we ever did anything where I got to be on the other side of it. So I'm excited.
No, I don't think
for
so.
Yeah.
So Eddie, let's learn about the day you were born. What do you remember about that? No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to go that far back. But what I do want to know is a little bit more about the idea that you guys came up with. And I know it's something that could be very revolutionary and groundbreaking in the world of pro pickleball. And I believe it's going to help with a big problem in the pickleball world. So Eddie, what would you like to tell the people that are tuning in? Like, what exactly is this problem that you guys are addressing?
That is a great question. So let's start with very generally what Kyle and I have created. And basically it's, in a nutshell, a high frame rate line challenge replay system. We'll get into the specifics as to exactly what it does, but I think it's most important to understand the why, as you mentioned. What is the problem? Well, pickleball is growing at a rapid rate, obviously, and there's a ton of money coming into the sport. Gambling is coming into the sport and is becoming more and more of a real possibility. And I think that in this situation, all areas of the sport need to grow together, right? And we're kind of seeing an imbalance where there's all this money and all this focus, but some of the areas of the sport just haven't really caught up yet. And with that, I also feel like there has been a lot of pros, and I think rightfully so, kind of complaining about other pro pickleball players who are taking advantage of the fact that right now there's no real consistent and quality way to do line challenge or, line challenge reviews in our current pickleball infrastructure. On top of that, there's really not much more of there's no like penalty or punishment of making bad line calls, whether it's intentional or not. So right now, as anybody that's listening to this probably knows, when you're playing in a pickleball tournament or rec play, and even with the pros, you're responsible for making out calls or line calls when it's on your side of the court. And you have the ability to, as the opponent, to ask the referee if they saw it. But most of the time, the referees aren't looking at the baselines and the sidelines where a lot of these line challenges come into play. So they're not there to basically either overturn a call or really have much to add to it. So what we need to do is we need to have a good quality system out there. And right now, most of them just aren't that great. Now, I'll tell you, at the Orchard for Tuesday Night Pickleball, which obviously I'm a production engineer for, we had a different way of trying to use our current cameras to help with this issue. And so most sports productions are done at what's called 60 frames per second. So for every second of footage, there's 60 individual frames that the camera is capturing and outputting, right? And our cameras were limited to 60 frames per second at the Orchard. So on the ones that are on the baseline, we actually changed the shutter speed a little bit to almost create a V, to where you can actually see the blur of the ball moving through the air. And it helps to visually see the ball moving through the air, but it doesn't give you a real clean picture of the ball hitting the line every single time. Sometimes you get lucky and one of those 60 frames happens to capture it there, but sometimes you don't. So that was kind of our solution with it. And Kyle, I know with Boxcar Productions, you guys actually still offer a 60 frames per second replay challenge system that is obviously great quality as well. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So just if there's anybody watching that doesn't understand what 60 frames per second is, I guess the best way I could actually describe it is like, you remember those picture books from when you were like a kid and you would like zip through them and you would see like a story for each page would be a different, a different part of the drawing, and you would zip through it and you would see an actual like story kind of in a small thing. And that's kind of what like when we say 60 frames, there's actually 60 pictures per second that are being like laid in like a book, right? So every second you have like 60 of those pictures, right? So the replay system that Boxcar Productions we do is like back in the early 2022, we started thinking about this and how to solve this problem, and we came up with an idea of putting cameras down just directly down the lines. It really hadn't been done in a 4-camera type solution, and the problem that we were seeing is that what we were trying to do is like we were trying to be like Hawkeye or any other replay system, was like we're really trying to mark like where's the ball actually landing on the court, like that direct in that direct contact point. And what we kept on seeing was like sometimes we would get lucky, and you would see it and you'd be like clear as day, like, oh, that ball is in. But then other times we would see like, oh no, like the ball landed in between, maybe in frame, 40, 46 and a half, right? It was somewhere in between, like, let's say it's frame 46 and 47, right? So like we couldn't really make a true determination. So then it became the judgment of the referees. And so that was kind of a problem. So I actually, when we were diving into this, Eddie, I went back and I looked over the whole last year, every single line challenge. And then I wanted to know how many times did the ball make direct contact to the ground when the challenge happened, that the referee can make an undisputed line call in or out. And it was only around 80% of the time. And to me, like that's a problem. Like there's 20% of the time where, we can't make a true determination. And when we first started this, we were only using 4 line cameras, and that was, 2 down the sidelines and 2 down the baselines. And then we even upped it to 6. So, we had 4 cameras on the sidelines, 2 on the baselines.
Is that because the net was blocking the to see the full sideline? Yeah.
Yes, so there's a part in between the kitchen and the net on the opposites, on the far side of the court, where there was like a blind spot where you couldn't see. And so we're like, okay, well, let's put 6 cameras. Well, if you want a 6, when we did 6 camera, now I had to bring in a second replay system, which costs, more money and more another operator, even though like if you came and you watched our production, the one replay operator was using 2 machines, and he was doing the line challenges and the actual replay for the camera. So it was good for what it was doing. It caught a lot of things. And so you have this challenge, where not only does you want to have all cameras on lines, but it has to be quick. So like it's not impeding the play. So it has to be you have to get that replay up to the referee within, 5 seconds, so the replay monitor can look at it. And then you also have to worry about like footprint, like how big are these cameras? Are they like, blocking the view of, spectators, or, impeding the play of players or whatnot. So, I mean, these are like the kind of challenges that you're kind of facing, is how do you find a solution to take care of this problem? And as Eddie, we reached out to like Hawkeye, and we're like, how much would this cost? And they weren't interested. They were like, yeah, we're not really ready to do pickleball, but it's really expensive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, just to get that up and going, And so, we saw a problem, as Eddie, you could kind of, and we wanted to take a stab at it. And I remember the last MLP Dallas, this is how it all kind of started. You were talking about how Jigsaw does it, and I was talking about what we were trying to do, and we're like, there has to be a better solution to it. So,
yeah, and really, to me, the better solution is to have more frames per second captured, right? So, Webby, what do you think is the right number of frames? And I'm going to let you guess, because we're actually going to do a quick little demonstration after this that Kyle's going to walk us through. But what do you think is the right number of frames that you want to be able to capture to get a good indication of whether a ball is in or out?
Well, the 60 frames that Boxcar was using seemed pretty good, so I would think doubling it to 120 would be perfect, right?
You would think so. And honestly, 120 is better, but what we have found, which we're going to show you here in just a second, is that it might get you 5% better, but really we have found the right balance between cost of system and as close to 100% accuracy as you can get with a system that costs under hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that's what a lot of these like really high frame rate systems typically cost. They're hundreds of thousands. We actually found that 240 frames per second is the number that we think is should be the new standard for pickleball. And actually, I'm going to kind of kick it over to Kyle here, where we actually have some footage queued up from our last time at the Orchard when we ran a test, and actually show you guys what it is that we're looking at here. So Kyle, you want to take it off here as I go through the 60 frames per second one?
Yeah, so this is 60 frames per second shooting down a sideline. And Eddie, if you can just slow it down, but every time you see the ball jump in the air, that's a frame, they call it, okay? So right now, it looks pretty, okay, from there to there, that's a frame. Eddie, can you go back one again? That distance, that is a frame, and then here's the next frame as you go down, Eddie, as the ball looks like it's hitting. Okay, from our vantage point, people are like, oh yeah, that's definitely like on the line, that's hitting the line. But from the vantage point, because the cameras have to be up, because there's usually like LED boards and whatnot you have to shoot over, you're kind of shooting a little bit on a downward angle. So the ball is actually hovering here. And then if you can go to the next frame after that, you don't really know where the ball actually made contact to the line, because at one frame it looks like it's contacting, but it's actually not contacting. So did the bottom of the ball, did it land like on the line? If we had another small couple frames, did it land on just the outside the line? Did it, like, you just don't know. So this would be, as we would show, this would be like a call that is not 100% indisputable, and the referee would have to make a determination based on trajectory. So what we would actually do in this instant is we would kind of rock the ball back and forth, and he would have to kind of tell by the trajectory. But I mean, it's just we're at the point where players are playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This to me is not acceptable, but it's better than nothing, to be honest. It's better than honestly what the PPA has been doing over the last year by just using the broadcast cameras and trying to make determinations. And to everybody, I know there's been some stuff on the PPA, or people defending, they're like, oh, we're using other cameras that you're not seeing on the broadcasts on YouTube or whatever. No, that's not the case. What you're seeing on television are the cameras that the referees are seeing. So as the prime time, as they say they are, like, that's not acceptable to me as a professional sport. And as a whole sport, we should be striving for something better than even this. So.
Yep. And then the next step up, Webby, as you mentioned, is 120 frames per second, which, Kyle, based on your research, how much of a jump in confidence in making line calls did it go from 60 frames to 120 frames per second?
Yeah, from our testing, I would probably say, Eddie, it was getting close to the 90%, just because those double the frames actually does help. So you can see now the gap of the ball traveling is smaller when Eddie goes from one frame to the next, but still, like, that gap, there's a gap between, from what you're actually looking at. So even though, like, how far that ball has to travel from one frame to the next, like, you're still getting where the ball is landing, and we're not seeing it directly where it's actually landing. So to me, 120 is definitely a step up, but I mean, just on a quick side note, so Hawkeye, real quickly, do you guys know why Hawkeye got implemented finally in in like the ATP or just in professional tennis in general?
No.
No.
So believe it or not, Hawkeye, the technology was on the broadcast before it was being implemented into like use into the actual tournament. So this was it was a match in the mid 2000s with Serena Williams. Okay. And there was a bunch of they had no challenges, right? But the Hawkeye was being used on the broadcast only. So there's these out calls that are happening by the umpires and the line referees. And then they would show the Hawkeye on the broadcast and the ball would be like in or out. So it actually came from the players. They're being like, this is absurd. Like, we need to get this implemented, right? And this is what this kind of is right now, right? Like, this is still 120 is, in my opinion, if you want to be a professional tour, is not acceptable. And if there's technology better out there, I just think it has to be used for, to legitimize as much as possible the sport. So that's my take on it. But 120 frames is definitely better. But
yeah,
240 is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry, man.
Go ahead. No, that's it. That's all I got to say on that. Eddie, you got any commentary for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's value in 120 frames per second, right? It's obviously going to capture twice as many frames as a 60 frames per second solution, and it's going to do better. But again, you're still going to get yourself in situations where you don't have enough frames in order to be able to get there, right? And that's ultimately why Kyle and I came up with this 240 frames per second, 6 camera system where there's 1 down each baseline, 2 down each sideline. That really, I think, is going to, as we've mentioned, it's going to give us that jump in accuracy that we want, that the players want, that the spectators want, because you get so much more clarity into where the ball is actually landing. And so if you see here, I mean, first of all, okay, so if it was 60 frames per second, you would see this. Okay? Shut your eyes. And then you would see this. That's a massive jump. We caught 2 additional steps in between there to be able to determine where that ball landed. Obviously, this ball would be called in because you can see right there is about as close as you can get to where it's at in the baseline. And when we were testing this, Kyle was ripping forehands from basically the kitchen line on the other side of the net. So realistic to what's going to happen quite a bit in pickleball. And this wasn't, hey, we're hitting it softly to demonstrate. He was actually ripping the ball really hard in order to be able to kind of show this demonstration here. So I think that we have found that 240 frames per second is the sweet spot. And I mean, you can zoom in even more on this if you want to. We do have another clip to be able to show as well. But I mean, as you can see, that's about as close as you're going to get to determining whether a ball is in or out. Let's go to a sideline at 240 frames per second, because this situation happens quite frequently as well, right? Obviously, this one, you can tell the ball is in without question. Here's another example down the line. Now, these are really tough, right? Because you have a really hard time seeing the trajectory of the ball. And I want to point something else out with this. A lot of times people say that a pickleball doesn't compress, and obviously it's not going to compress like a tennis ball. But when you're capturing it at 240 frames per second, you can see the impact that the trajectory through the air and hitting the ground will actually do with the ball. So right here, you kind of see the shape of the ball, and then here you can see it does compress a little bit. And I found that very interesting, and I don't think we would have ever been able to catch that, or we would have been very lucky to have caught that at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like this is the first time I'm seeing this footage on my end, and that is very, very cool. And when you showed the 60 frame per second shot, it looked like there was like a good 2 balls worth like in between one frame and the other. And then when you had the 120 frames, even that had like a full ball's length missing like from one frame to the next. So that's huge. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. This is awesome. Like if PPA or the APP don't implement this, they are insane. That's all I got to say. Like
Well,
this is
yeah.
just this is groundbreaking for sure.
And I obviously, you know, from where Kyle and I are sitting, it's obvious to us, right? Because let's talk about why we wanted to go down this venture. As I mentioned, and if you guys don't know, Kyle and I were pickleball addicts. We love the sport. We love the broadcast. So we really see this as kind of what I would call a for more than profit venture. So what does that mean? That means we saw a huge problem in pickleball. We found a way to be able to solve it. And we would like to be able to make this something that we can really invest our time and money in. And although it doesn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars like a Hawkeye system or some of the professional, NFL systems or whatnot, it still does cost a lot of money for this equipment. You'd be surprised at the price jump from 60 frames per second to 120 frames per second versus 120 frames per second to 240 frames per second. It's probably threefold more expensive to make that jump, but we really think that it's worth it. And I do think that even though it's not a cheap system, how we have really priced it, I think is very competitive. And I think it's very reasonable within the market of pickleball, where we've kind of landed at the right balance between having the right equipment, having redundancy, having the ability to pull it up within a few seconds, show the referee, capture reliably. All of those things, they require a lot of equipment and a lot of time. And I think we nailed it. Do you have anything more to add on that note, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's for people to understand, if the NFL, if they have just a couple slow motion cameras, like that is a win. Not every single replay camera you see like in the NBA or the NFL is super slow-mo. So super slow-mo is like 120 frames for sports usually. And like each, just for perspective, because the cameras are more expensive and whatnot, but one camera costs nearly $250,000 for super slow motion, right? So we were the task of being able to find cameras that have a small footprint that we can capture, that we can get it out to the referees as quick as possible,
and a broadcast
that we can send, that we can send to the broadcast, that we can send to the LED boards, so the fans can see it, in a package that is reliable, is very hard to do, and that's why this is why it's hard to figure out in the first place. It's a very, very niche thing that we're trying to do, because people are like, oh, like my iPhone could do 120 frames. Yeah, it's a lot of cameras can record at 120 frames, but it's outputting it and capturing it, which is the two hardest things, and synchronizing them. So like when we hit record and when we cut something, it's all 6 camera angles are at the same synchronization. Like, so if I wanted to pull up the baseline and then I want to pull up the sideline right after that, we're looking at the same thing, but from 2 different camera angles. Okay. And it's not an easy thing to figure out. It took Eddie and I, obviously, of these last couple of months of just trying to figure things out, working with other companies, trying to find a very niche thing. And we just hope that, if anything, Eddie, I've always said this is, I started my business in pickleball is to help grow the sport and keep it growing and just do my part. And I just feel like this is just another thing that can really add a lot of value, just to the integrity of the sport, to the players. And it was just interesting, just to talk about the players. Like, yeah, the one thing I did notice is that by having line cameras, not only do you have the ability to challenge, but what I've noticed is that some calls that players would normally probably call out, they just give the benefit of the doubt because they don't want to have it challenged and then seen as like they're a cheater, right? Like, imagine if you made 3 bad out calls during a match and they all got challenged and overruled. The buzz on the internet. So what I would see sometimes is something that would close where someone would be like, oh, I would normally call that out. They'd just be like, that's in. And they would just, give the call, and it probably was in. So yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully this gets picked up, and and we can bring it to the viewers, because they deserve it, the players deserve it, and the organizations deserve it too as well.
Absolutely. Speaking of viewers, we've got some people that have some questions that are tuning in on social media. We got a great question here from Mike Baumgardner, and he says, if 60 frames per second is 80% and 120 frames per second is 90%, what is 240 frames per second estimate percentage, would you say, for what you can see?
Well, I mean, in our research, we haven't found one yet that we weren't able to make a call on. Is it possible? Absolutely. The other thing you got to remember too is there's a lot of other factors that go into it. If both players happen to be like standing on the baseline, blocking both camera angles, then yeah, we're probably not going to be able to get precise with it. That's probably really the only situation that I think we would not be able to get decent confidence in our ability to show a referee basically what it's all about. What
Hey,
I will
Eddie,
say, yeah, go ahead.
Eddie, can I just wish Brett late happy birthday? And this is an inside joke, so I'll get it. But happy late birthday, Brett, aka Mike. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, that's an inside joke between referee and myself. So
I actually have something to add about Mike,
birthday, Mike
when you're done. Also,
Yeah.
Let me know when you're done, Eddie, and I have a little tidbit about Mike.
So, I mean, to be honest with you, the percentage estimate, we don't know yet. My guess is going to be it's going to be very rare that we aren't able to properly capture it, Mike. And so I would be guessing we're talking between 95 and 99% accuracy, and it could be 3 events before we even have one that we weren't able to make a proper call from, where that number drastically increases when you get to 120 frames per second and increases again when you get to 60 frames per second. So no definitive answer, but it's going to be 4 times as more reliable, 4 times more reliable than 60 frames per second.
Yeah, and just from our testing, Eddie, like you said, Eddie, we haven't seen a ball where we couldn't make a determination from 200 frames. Now, let's remember, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of balls. So, I mean, our sample size, it was pretty large, but still, it's, we need a lot. Like the 80% was, based on a whole year's worth of, challenges. So this was a couple days of us testing. But I'm, like you're saying, Eddie, 95%, on the low end, 95%, I would say, just because I can't say, because we haven't had one that wasn't, where we couldn't make a call. So.
Yep. And Webby, while you're pouring your beer, I'm going to bring up one more question here. Actually, 2 more questions before we get to your comment about Mike. Here's a question from Howard Hepworth, and it says, Kyle, are you saying you have the 6-camera, 240 frames per second setup ready to go? And the answer to that is yes. We just need about 20 to 30 day lead time to make sure we can source all of the remaining equipment that we need to make it production ready. But anything you want to add to that, Kyle?
Yes, it's just, this is a very large investment for Eddie and I. So when we did our testing, we were lucky we had people that had the equipment that we actually needed to do a full test, to make sure that what we were trying to do was viable and it was reliable. And that's what we found. But obviously, if, we need, we want people to use this, so we're just not going to spend hundreds of, $100,000 on equipment for it just to sit there, but, we've invested some into it, and we've rented other stuff to test what we were trying to do. And from a reliability standpoint, we feel very confident. It's just as soon as it gets picked up, like Eddie said, we need about 20 days to just make sure everything's a go, and then away with the line challenge system.
That's right. And one more quick question here. This is from Corey Malkin. Corey says, do you have your trademark name for it yet? That's kind of an inside joke where I wanted to call us the Replay Boys, but I don't know. I don't think anybody else liked that name. So we will be coming up with an official name very soon, though, Corey.
Yeah, and thank you to look at this, Eddie. Look at what hat I'm wearing.
I love it, man.
The Orchard Cup.
Is that
Thank you,
because maybe
Jigsaw.
somebody that is there with you, her team won the Orchard Cup for season 2 of Arizona Pickleball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My girlfriend Ariel Butler won season 2. Her and her team. So I was actually there to watch, and it's. I'll tell you what, that place. There's something about that place that is just unlike anything in pickleball, and you really, if you haven't been there, you really need to go and experience it at the Orchard in Scottsdale at Jigsaw Health. It's I've been all over the country. I've done 50 or more venues, and this
really?
Yeah, this was a really cool venue, unlike anything I've been at.
Nice. So I didn't mean to throw Catherine in there, but I felt like you were flexing, so I had to drop the.
Oh, really?
All right, Webby, you had a story about Mike. You want to share it real quick?
I do. So before I get into the story about Mike, can I throw a name suggestion in? So tennis uses Hawkeye. What and pickleball is basically like a small version of tennis. So what about like Finch Eye or like Sparrow Eye or something like that? No?
I suggested Eagle Eye because eagles actually have better vision than hawks. So
okay.
think about that.
I like that.
But
if that's available,
not
you should do it.
Yes. Yeah, right. Probably not.
All right, so my long-awaited story about Mike Baumgardner. Fun fact about Mike Baumgardner is the first gold medal I ever won in pickleball. In fact, the first medal ever that I won in pickleball was teaming up with Mike Baumgardner. But it was like a very unique tournament. It was the most unique tournament I had ever done. It was a round-robin style tournament to where like you play with and against everybody like as a doubles partner. And then I made it to the gold medal match, and so did Mike, and so did 2 other people. And then I just happened to get paired up with Mike. Like we didn't choose that. That's just how it worked out. Like Mike and I played together against 2 other people. We won and we got the gold. Oh yeah.
Nice. Congratulations. Thank you, Mike, for carrying Webby on your back.
And I'll tell you what, and Mike Baumgardner and his wife Michelle, I believe that's I'm blanking. I think it's Michelle. Yep. They went to Harding University, which they just won the Division II national championship in football. So Mike Baumgardner is really winning at life right now. So
nice.
Good people. Always love to see Mike.
And he's just a great referee.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Webby, any other questions that you think are good before Kyle and I kind of wrap up what we want to talk about here? We're not done hanging out. We just wanted to wrap this up before we move on to just some open-ended stuff.
I have one more question from somebody on Facebook, and that is Matthew Pace. And he says, question for Kyle, how does one deal with Randy Coleman all day in the trailer?
Randy, he's overseas in Thailand right now. So every time he comes back, which he came back last time, he's usually ready to work and he's in a good mood. So, he's usually always in a good mood. I'm usually the one that's fretting about everything. So it's a good yin and yang where he's like, don't worry about it. And I'm the one like, no, worry about it. And kind of deal. So, you just gotta take the good and the bad with it. And I have plenty of bad things, but you won't find a harder working person that really loves the company. Is one of the founders of. He was there from day one, and it's hard to find somebody that's going to work that hard that absolutely loves, what we're trying to do, like those people, and that's going to be loyal and do whatever it takes for something to get done. Like those type of people are very hard to come by. So, we all have our, especially me, have our moments where they're like, oh, just shut up. You know what I mean? But it's like a brotherhood, you don't always get along with your brother, but at the end of the day, we're all striving for the same goal. And, like I said, like someone who's loyal and works as hard as him, like they're hard to find. So very appreciative of everything that he's been over the last couple of years. And I hope he's having a great time living the life in Thailand and over in Asia right now, and drinking plenty of beers and playing a lot of pickleball.
Hopefully he recovers soon from getting a firework in the face too, because
Yeah.
according to a recent
too.
Facebook post, a firework kind of blew off right in his face.
That's insane. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I've been trying to stay off of social media. That's kind of like my New Year's resolution. Do other things besides be on my phone. So I recently just saw that. Him taking a shiner to the face with a firework.
Dude, imagine how scary that would be. Like all of a sudden.
Holy
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. You can say it, Kyle. We won't censor you.
No, in fact, Kyle, I don't know if you're aware of this. You are the only guest that caused us to have a mature rated podcast that we're like, you have to be 18 or over to view it or listen to it. Like you have to log in to YouTube to prove you're over 18 to listen to it because of your potty mouth from the first time you were on.
Yep.
Yeah. Was that like back in 2019 or was that?
I don't even. It's been so long. Like
was
all
a
these
long
years
time ago.
blend together at this point.
Yeah, I feel like it was still back in the no smoke pickleball days. I think that was still going on back then. That's how long ago it was.
Man, those were the days. I try to tell people about the pre-COVID days, the nostalgia of those days, but no one seems to understand.
It's a different world back then.
Like tournaments are so much different. Like you would show up like a day or two early. Everybody would play rec with everybody.
Yep.
Even if you were a 5-0, there wasn't really like pro divisions at the time. And then everyone would go out to eat and then you go play a tournament. Now it's like, it's become a business. So.
Yep.
I agree. Well, speaking of business, why don't we wrap up this conversation here real quick with a couple more questions, and then we can talk about all the other cool stuff going on right now. First one is from the one and only Patrick Sullivan Jr., CEO of Jigsaw, saying, "Thanks for the kind words, Kyle, and we want to thank you, Patrick, for letting us do our test at the Orchard. We wouldn't have been able to even get to this point without you opening up the Orchard to us and letting us run our tests and make sure that the cameras work. So forever grateful for you for so many other things, but that was very kind of you. So thank you so much for that." And then we got a question here from the G of Guthrie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the G said, "Great. How quick can you get them on the courts?" Well, we kind of touched on this earlier. We just need like a 20-day or so lead time. We would like 30 days, but we can probably make it happen in 20 days. But that's not going to happen without a lot of people seeing the value in what we're providing. So if you're a pro player watching right now and maybe you're sick of crappy replay challenge systems that are out there, reach out to your tour and ask them about this. Outside of what Boxcar was doing and outside of what you see at the Orchard, there's a lot of complaints from pro players about it. So if you're a pro player, talk to your tournament director, whatever tour you're part of, talk to them and really just tell them how much we need this. And if you're a spectator or a fan of pickleball, same thing, post about it. Again, Kyle and I aren't in this to make millions of dollars. We're not trying to get rich off of the backs of all of you. We just want to put a good quality product out there, and that is our main focus. So if you guys want this, that's your call to action. If you have any more questions, you can reach out to me or Kyle on social media. You can just reach out to the Eddie and Webby Facebook page or Instagram if you want to get a hold of me. Kyle. You're under Kyle Selinko on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and too, Eddie, just like we're not just like right now we're limited to one court only having 240 frames, but we compare that one court with multiple other courts of 120 frames, right? So if they wanted if they wanted one court at 240 frames and 3 other courts at 120, like we can make that happen within even that time span right now. It's but the 240 is quite the investment, and it's quite the system to have. And like this would be more down the road of, because I don't think Eddie and I's ultimate goal with this is just a high frame rate camera. We want to use that and pair that with something that's going to be more towards the line of Hawkeye. So it might be an integration of high frame rate with a 3D modeling type to show it like Hawkeye. I think that's ultimately where we want to go. But I think Eddie and I have discussed like this. We feel like this is the first step. So maybe this first year, I think what we're trying to do is we're working on this, and then throughout the year, we're going to be working on being able to model it and really, really pinpoint through 3D mapping, the ball landing just like Hawkeye. And I think that's where we're going to take this. So hopefully it works out. And this one other thing, Matt Pace, he's an OG camera guy for Boxcar Productions as well. And he started from almost day one. Actually, his Justin, his good friend Justin was the very first one, and they were working for free. And they started from literally just like me with just a time on camera, learning how to do things, and they become extremely good camera operators. And another great people that have been along the journey for the last couple of years, also from the pickleball community. So shout out to them.
Very nice. Webby, what do you want to talk about? I feel like Kyle and I have just dominated the conversation tonight. So what do you want to talk about? Tell us all your thoughts and dreams and hopes and all that.
No, I've just been soaking this all in. I love it. Like, I can't think of anybody who would not want to see this type of thing implemented, because it's huge. It's like, it will definitely change things for the better in pickleball. So everybody that's tuning in, please share this, get the word out there. We need to make this happen, because it'll just make pickleball even more. People will take pickleball more seriously if we have a good replay system in place, because right now, like what PPA is using is a joke. And in the comment section of all the videos that I see, everybody, tons and tons of comments say that. Anytime I tune into Tuesday Night Pickleball at the Orchard or anything that Boxcar does, people are like, why doesn't PPA do stuff like this? This is so much better of a production than what PPA does. Come on. And then APP, don't even get me started there. Like, do they even do a live stream anymore? Come on.
That Webby said it. We didn't say that, for the record. Webby said that.
Yeah, to be clear, like this what's going on, this is the two of them only. They created the system. This is just my opinion right here. And I feel like any organization that does not utilize this, they're foolish. And yeah. You should be smart and use this.
I really do think the APP is a sleeper, though. I feel like they're going to be upping the amount of days that they're live streaming this year. And I just think like they're kind of just doing the slow and steady wins the race. I think every single year that we've seen, like, tournaments get ran better, the experiences are better have been better on the APP. Their center court's looking better. Like it was like, I saw some Instagram photos of their collegiate thing going on, and it was a very nice center court. Even when I was in Chicago for the indoor tournament, like they're waiting to make like their real move. So they're just kind of, just making smart moves and just buying time, but they're still producing a very good product. So you can't take that away from them. Just look at what all the amateurs say, and they actually listen to the amateurs and and pro players, and they take those things into consideration. So hats off to them.
Yeah, and let me clarify. Like, I love APP. I love what they're doing. I was strictly talking
backpedal
about
now. Huh?
I was
You're
strictly
gonna go
talking about
back
their
on
live
it.
stream.
Okay.
Their live stream. Ever since they weren't using Boxcar, I think a lot of people have noticed things have gone downhill quite a bit with their live stream production. That's all I was saying. The live stream sucks. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
compared to what it used to be. It's better than nothing, but compared to Boxcar, it sucks.
yeah, I will say, Kyle,
Well,
I definitely, one thing I've always admired about you is you've always continued to push and push and push when it comes to the broadcast, right? And even you and I kind of had this like kind of fun back and forth where it was like you were trying something and I was trying something, but you always did it in a spirit of growing the sport. It never was, I want Boxcar Productions to own a monopoly on productions. It came from a place of, I want all of this to grow better. And that's something I've always admired and appreciated about you. And I definitely think that that's going to pay dividends in the long run when it comes to a lot of the things that you're going to do in the future of pickleball. And I guess that's my question for you outside of the stuff that we're working on here. What do you see for Kyle Selinko in 2024?
Him not to be tubby anymore. That's number one. So, really, really working on my fitness because these last 3 years have been very harsh on me of traveling and living the lifestyle I haven't been accustomed to for the first 30 plus years of my life. So that's number one is like my health, I feel, is my number one thing. So if I have to turn down some gigs and some money, like that's what I'm doing this year. That's my number one priority because I just don't feel healthy and I'm getting up there in age. So that's probably my number one thing. And two, it's just like, I'm just like never, and just to bring it back to the broadcast stuff, Eddie, and thanks for the kind words, but it's just like that one thing where I'm just like never satisfied. You know what I mean? I always just feel like there could be, what can we do better to innovate? Like I always, because I feel like stagnation, just like you die with stagnation. So what can I be doing to elevate the production and the sport? So that's how I always thought of it. It's just been a slow race because I literally started from nothing. And I'm trying to compete with billion-dollar companies, billion-dollar production companies. And I literally 3 years ago started with a couple $1,000s. So, it's it's just like that's like why I kind of relate with the APP because it's just been like slow and steady. You know what I mean? Just keep grinding at it and hopefully good things happen. But sometimes the big guys eat the little guys. So sometimes you just don't know. And you got to pivot.
You've always had kind of a symbiotic relationship with APP, right? They gave you your start to get into production. Your production helped elevate the broadcast for APP. It grew your production, and you guys kind of did this like, both of you kind of grew together. And so I do think it would be great. I would love to see, you working with APP again. Cause I do think that both of you guys kind of, like I said, like you grew together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I understand it's a business though, and they have to make their own business decisions. And, I don't take anything personally, to be honest, and hopefully it works out, but who knows? We'll see.
I like it. Webby, what about you? 2024, what's that going to look like for Webster Papadopoulos?
Well, for me, starting tomorrow, the Detroit Pickleball League kicks off. Eddie and I are team owners, and I am one of the players on the team, so I'm looking forward to that. At the moment, that's the biggest thing I got going on. But I'm looking super forward to it.
Yeah, it's super excited to see the Eddie and Webby pickleballers out there dominating in the Detroit Pickleball League. I'm excited to see what you can do with that team. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. Something cool for 2024. Let's see.
Yeah,
Here.
and I got this. Sorry, Eddie. And I got this crazy new kitten that's this antagonizing my older cat that's laying on the couch. So you can kind of see him in the background right there. But
Oh, that's cool.
the older cat's trying to sleep, and the younger one is playing with the blinds. But I have two Maine Coons, and the kitten is a male, and it's supposed to be 25 pounds. It's supposed to be like 3 feet long.
Oh wow.
It's going to be huge. So he's just a baby, but he already looks like a full grown cat. But he's going to be huge. I saw one of his like siblings, and like usually they say, oh, it's going to be huge. Like I've never been like taken back by a cat. The thing walked out of the room, and I was like, it looked like a lynx, like in the wild. It was so huge, and it was only a year old. So we got our hands full this year. This thing is wild.
Oh, that's cool. It's always fun to get new pets. All right. Kyle, what else? Like, obviously, we give every guest an opportunity to be able to share what's going on with them. You kind of did. Anything you want to say? Basically, the floor is yours before we wrap up here tonight.
Yeah, I guess I hope this takes off. I hope it, like I said, for the organizations and the players. We saw, many controversies happen within the sport. You had one player retire from singles because of bad line calls by other players. You had a huge controversy in PPA Daytona where you had players looking at the monitor after the match. So, like I said, just want to keep continually pushing the sports forward, and hopefully this is another avenue that helps that. But we shall see.
We shall see. Thank you for joining us, Kyle. Glad we were able to get that out there. As I mentioned, look up Kyle on all the social medias, Kyle Selinko. We can post a link down below too after this live stream. And Kyle, we will be in touch with you soon.
All right. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Webby.
See you guys, or see you.
Yeah, see you, Kyle.
Man, always love hanging out with Kyle Selinko. Such a good guy. I feel like we've always had such a good friendship with him from the very beginning, very first time we met him, even virtually. Yeah. I don't know. It just, I feel like our energies all play well together. That sounded super like hippie-ish right there. Our energies, our auras all blended well together. What in the world is that all about? Why would I say that?
Man.
But I agree.
No, it's true, though.
Yeah.
It's very true. I remember like one of the first times we met Kyle, like he immediately was trying to think of things to do in the pickleball world to make things better. And I remember him there with his MacBook, streaming stuff to his MacBook. I think at one point he had an iPad, and he was just trying different things, the most cost-effective ways to do live streaming with a scoreboard and stuff like that. And I recognized right away that he had like definitely a passion for the sport. He had a vision for what he wanted to do in the sport. And to be honest, like he exceeded what I thought. Like I knew he had a grand vision of what he wanted to do, but what he's done with Boxcar Productions has just been amazing, and by far the best pickleball live streaming productions I've seen. It's awesome. And I love the fact that you two are joining forces to create what I think is going to be revolutionary and the best thing in instant replays in the pickleball world.
Oh, really?
Yes, really.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm super excited for what 2024 is going to bring. There's so many great things going on in pickleball right now. With all the controversy that's going on, there's still so much great stuff. I love what the APP is doing right now. Obviously, I'm a little biased. Tuesday Night Pickleball at the Orchard featuring the Arizona Pickleball League. We just wrapped up season 2. It was an absolute blast. I love being part of that company and part of that crew and helping to put on that production. It's so much fun. Coming up in a few weeks, the Jigsaw crew is going out to Hawaii for the Jigsaw Health Hawaii Open. There in person, but I am actually helping to get the live stream set up. And who works over at Jigsaw, he's going to be running the live stream there. Patrick and Ashley are both going to be there. I heard that maybe DJ is going to be making an appearance.
Oh,
That should be a
nice.
really cool event. And I don't remember this, Webby, but the last time that event was held was 4 years ago. Brandon Swanson was streaming it, and because of the heat, there were all sorts of issues going on, and he had reached out with some questions. Do you remember that from long ago? Yeah.
I do remember. Yeah, I vividly remember that. I remember like I messaging him. He was messaging with you and stuff, and I just remember like feeling really bad because he's got a great heart, and like he's another one that like he's been involved in pickleball for a long time, great passion for the sport, and I felt so bad for the issues that were going on there. I told him, I tried to like calm him down and just tell him like I know we can totally relate. We've experienced stuff like that before with the live stream and stuff like that. But yeah, I've always been a fan of his, and that would be so awesome to be there though in Hawaii for pickleball stuff like that. Man,
I know that would have been cool. Hawaii's a fun place. It's hot. You got to stay hydrated. Webby, outside of Fat Tire, how do you like to stay hydrated, especially when you're playing pickleball?
well, for me, I always drink 2 packets of the Fruit Punch Electrolyte Supreme. I drink one before I play, and then I drink one after I'm done playing, and I always feel amazing afterwards. And as everybody knows who knows me, I sweat like crazy. It's pretty disgusting, and I need to restore those electrolytes. Water alone definitely doesn't cut it. So I got to use the Electrolyte Supreme, and it has saved me, and I love it.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the pickleball cocktail. I'm a little, biased to pickleball cocktail. I like the blue raspberry flavor. It tastes like cotton to me. It's my favorite. Before that, the orange was my favorite, but the blue raspberry just ekes it out a little bit. Take that stuff anytime I'm doing any sort of exercise or activity. Tastes good, helps me stay hydrated, and keeps you from cramping, which is great. I also take a lot of other products from Jigsaw Health. My daily regimen consists of Mag SRT, the cod liver oil, as well as, oh my God, adrenal cocktail. That's what I'm thinking of. Great ad, Eddie. And guys, I highly recommend all of Jigsaw's products. You can use coupon code PB4Life10 for $10 off of your order. Go to jigsawhealth.com. Use code PB4Life10, $10 off your order. Everything that company makes is great. I've been working with them for over a year now. I love working with them. They're an incredible company. They are obsessed with pickleball just like the rest of us. And not only do they have great products, but you're also supporting a company that is heavily invested in pickleball, puts a lot of money and time into it. And I don't know about you, Webby, but if I know that a company that puts out a great product is also in pickleball, I'm very likely going to support them.
Oh, for sure. That's why we like Fat Tire and New Belgium in general, because they like to support pickleball. They sponsor pickleball tournaments and stuff like that. So another reason why we love them. But yeah, absolutely love Jigsaw Health. Love what they're doing. Have always been a big fan.
That's right. As we mentioned earlier in the show at the very beginning, Webby and I have a huge announcement that we're going to be making here very soon. We're partnering up with a new brand. You guys probably won't be surprised because perhaps you've seen us use their products in videos. We might have done a review on one of their products, and I hate teasing this stuff. Web loves it. I hate it.
I do.
But I feel like this is so exciting that we just had to be able to share it. So we'll probably make an announcement here within the next week or so. Would you say, Webby?
Yeah, I would say so. And our partnership will allow our viewers to get some discounts, and you can count on some giveaways coming up very soon. So yeah, it's going to be awesome for everybody involved.
That's right. So many other great things coming up here in the near future. We might have an on-location episode of Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby. Don't want to share any spoilers there, but that's going to be good. Webby and I are hoping to bring content to you on a much more frequent basis. If you haven't checked out Just the Pickle, it's basically an ongoing continuation of the Eddie and Webby Pickleball podcast, where we're releasing old content and we're stripping out all the beer, the technology, anything non-pickleball related. We're calling it Just the Pickle. We've already released episodes with Ben Johns. We've released episode with Kyle Yates. One from the Florida, what was it called?
The Florida Grand.
There we go. The Florida Grand Slam from 2019. We've had so much great stuff. We're going to continue to release it. We have some great episodes that are going to be dropping. We're going to try and do that every Sunday on YouTube, Monday morning, wherever you get your audio podcast. So when you're driving to work Monday morning, you can go ahead and tune in. Anything else you want to add, Webby?
No, I just want to say that the Just the Pickle, I've gotten great feedback on that, so we're definitely going to keep that going. What's crazy is a lot of the stuff that we've re-released is performing better than the original content did that we did many years ago. But I love that fact. New people are finding our content, and I feel like this is a great way to get it out there, get rid of everything except Just the Pickle, and it's great stuff. Look forward.
Well, on that note,
I look forward to posting more about it. But yeah, continue what you were about to say.
On that note, Eddie.
And until next time, this is Webby, not Eddie. Sign.
See ya.
Pickleball.